You launched 6 months later. What is that? What exactly does that look like? Like, okay, I've had a lot of great ideas, but implementing them and actually showing up on day one to work is
Yeah.
a lot different. It's a lot different when you have a law firm and you walk into the office, right? You're like, today's my first day. I work here now. With what you're doing, you're starting your own thing completely. What
Yeah.
does day one look like with something like that?
I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I had all the answers.
Yeah,
And it took so long to find my first customers. I was so depressed. It was really tough those first couple of years.
yeah.
But what that looks like is, you develop a business plan, you talk to potential people in the industry. I did a lot of informational interviews with companies in senior care. You develop a marketing plan around where you're going to get your customers. And I rented a little office and kind of just launched. It's a lot of talking to a lot of people.
Welcome to the LandLife Podcast with your host, PJ Riley.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the LandLife Podcast. My name is PJ Riley. Guys, if you're getting value from this podcast, don't forget, like, subscribe, leave 5 stars. If what we really say resonates with you, do me a solid, leave a quick comment. Nothing crazy, something, the podcast with Stephanie was awesome today. Great job. That's it. Nothing too crazy. Our guest today, Stephanie, is going to tell you all kinds of cool, interesting things. And at the end of the podcast, if what she says really resonates with you, she's going to leave ways you can contact her and kind of keep the conversation going. So make sure you stick around to the end for that. One last thing before we get started. If you are interested in the land business, obviously we buy and sell dirt and trees. And, I keep getting messages from people saying they want to be a part of the business. Can I help them kind of get in? But they don't necessarily want to do the day-to-day. Hit me up, message me, and I kind of explain to you how you can be involved in the land business without actually having to kind of do the day-to-day buying and selling and all that kind of stuff. So, guys, today we got a really interesting guest. Not a real estate investor, not a, I don't know, who have we had, the sports people lately. So Stephanie Chan, she owns 2 different companies, all in the senior living industry. And I was going to explain them, but I would do a really bad job. So Stephanie, first of all, Stephanie, thank you for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And what part of the country, what part of the world are you in?
In Vancouver, British Columbia.
Far, far away up north. How cold is it right now?
No, it's warm. It's like a 25-degree sunny day.
Okay.
Yeah.
25 Celsius, correct?
25 Celsius is what is that? Um so 20 is room temperature.
Okay. So it's like 80 degrees, probably 75
Yeah,
degrees
probably about
Fahrenheit.
80. Yeah.
We do everything backwards here in America. Everything is different than the rest of the world.
No,
We
I
have
think
to
it's
be
about
different.
80. It's a warm day. It's
Okay,
nice.
perfect. All right. So Stephanie, you're involved in the senior living industry. Maybe kind of
Mhm.
let us know what you're doing right now, and then we'll do like a quick background on you, like kind of what got you to the point we're at right now.
Okay. So I found a passion in helping seniors and families. So through my 2 companies, we do a range of things. Generally speaking, my first company, Home to Home, which is 16 years old, helps people with healthcare navigation, care planning, and um, helps people when they're downsizing or transitioning from, like, let's say they've been in a house for 2 dozen years and they're moving into a condo or a retirement home. So we kind of handle that, help them choose the right home. Um, because we've got different categories of homes with different levels of care. So we help with all that. My second company is a caregiver marketplace. So we help families find caregivers where they want to stay in place for as long as possible. So one kind of helps them move and one helps them age in place at home with the right help.
All right. All right. So that explains it way better than I would have way better than I would have explained everything. All right. So give us kind of background on you. Like, what got you into this
Yeah.
industry? Like, you don't just jump into something like this. What brought you there?
No. So I had a little bit of a roundabout journey took me a long time to figure out what it was that I really wanted to do with my life. And so, um, went to university, got a business degree, didn't feel quite ready, or I was in finance and I didn't really want to work in finance. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I wanted to get a second degree. So I decided to go to law school. thinking that I would be, a corporate lawyer and, work in business after that. So graduated from law school, ended up in corporate and securities law. Went really early in my career from a law firm into in-house counsel at a company, a clean tech company, and worked my way up. And I practiced for about 9 years. I knew kind of early on that I wouldn't stay in law for the rest of my life. Right when I started working, right for my articling year, I kind of knew. But I ended up in a really good company, was learning lots, getting paid well. It was exciting. We were doing really great deals. And so I stayed actually a little longer than I even kind of peaked. I wasn't learning as much. It wasn't as rewarding. And I started thinking about what it would be worthwhile leaving law for. Like, what are some other things I could do? And thought about maybe doing a parallel transfer, like maybe in-house counsel at a different kind of company. Um, but I really figured that I would probably reach the same point at eventually. This idea came about to do something completely different. I saw a company in another province that was doing the same thing, and I thought, oh, wow, you're actually helping people and making money at it. And so I quit law somewhat naively, cold turkey. So I thought of this idea. I ruminated for a few months, talked to my friends about it, ended up quitting law cold turkey. I was really miserable at that point with my job. And I took a 6 month sabbatical to learn as much as I could about senior living. And then I launched 6 months later.
Wow. Okay. So let's unpack that a little bit. You said you launched 6 months later. What is that? What exactly does that look like? Like, okay, I've had a lot of great ideas, but implementing them and actually showing up on day one to work is a lot different. It's a lot different when you have a law firm and you walk into the office, right? You're like, today's my first day. I work here now. With what you're doing, you're starting your own thing completely. What does day one look like with something like that?
So from what I remember back then, and launching my first business was really different from launching my second because I learned a lot. I made a lot of mistakes for the first business. Looking back, I really didn't know what I was doing. Made a lot of mistakes. But at the time, the funny thing is, I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought I had all the answers.
Yeah.
And it took so long to find my first customers. I was so depressed. It was really tough those first couple of years.
Yeah.
But what that looks like is, you develop a business plan. You talk to potential people in the industry. I did a lot of informational interviews with companies in senior care. And you develop a marketing plan around where you're going to get your customers. And I rented a little office and kind of just launched. And, you know, it's a lot of talking to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And with the second business, I think what I did better was I realized how important it was to have a team around you and not do everything yourself. And so with the second business launch, we took the time and in the 16 years that had elapsed between my first business and my second business, the startup ecosystem had really developed as well. Like today, there's so many services and advisors and other companies that support founders in launching a business.
Okay.
So I was much more prepared, had a team around me, had a much better business plan. So yeah.
Okay. So that first business now with no plan, where are you finding your customers?
I ended up, you think about so my customers for the first business were seniors and their adult children.
Okay.
Second business also. But you start talking to people who interact with seniors and their adult children around the time when they're thinking mom or dad might have to move in the near future. So who are those people that they're talking to? So the retirement homes, they keep a wait list. Realtors, they probably talk to the realtor to get a market value assessment on their property to see what they can sell it for. They might talk to a lawyer. So then I started going through all these channels to say, hey, if you know anyone who is trying to navigate the healthcare system or choose a retirement residence, or is moving, we can help.
Okay. So that's a lot of like, it's there's not like one place. It's not like you go to a website and there's a list of people. You got to be looking around, contacting multiple people kind of in your own current network then, right?
Yeah, B2C marketing is a lot more effort than B2B marketing, because B2B marketing, you can get lists of businesses from all sorts of places. It's really easy. But there's nowhere where I can get like a list of seniors that are looking to move. So
Okay. Okay. So I'm just really interested in the startup of this thing because it sounds so just off the wall, just not easy to start. So
not
you start talking to people. I mean, you don't have any experience in senior living, right? It's not
yeah.
like you run a senior living facility. How are you conveying to these people that you're the
Mhm.
person?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. In the first few years, part of the big issue was I didn't have enough experience to have credibility. You get into, at this point now, it's much easier because I'm 16 years in, and there aren't a lot of senior living advisors in Canada, even, let alone my province. And so having this much experience, it's much easier now. But back then, it was really hard. And when you're starting out, what's really important is, and it takes a long time to find these people, you need to find your early champions who like you enough to give you a chance. So they've met you, you come off as trustworthy and reliable, and they're willing to give you a chance. And then you do a great job for these early champions, and then you get repeat business, and then the word kind of spreads. So it took me a long time, like years, but eventually, what a lot of business owners say is, and this happened for me, is that you'll get 80% or 70 to 80% of your revenue from 20 to 30% of your network.
Yeah.
So it becomes a lot less work, a lot less marketing, because you're getting repeat referrals from a constant percentage of your network.
Yeah. Okay. So that was business number one. You said 16 years. It's funny when we hear like I own two businesses, a lot of people are like, they kind of think, well, maybe it took a year, 2 years. It takes real time to build something substantial, right? So how long did the first business last?
Oh, I'm still in it.
Okay.
These two businesses still exist.
Okay. How long from the first business did you start the second one?
Six, uh, 7, 12 years.
Wow. Okay. So 12 years of doing everything on your own. Is that right? Until you decided to build a team.
Well, I started realizing a few years into the first business that I could not do everything by myself. So I
Yeah.
started bringing in contract staff part-time to help out with client work. So these would be the people in client homes working with clients. And HR is another ball of wax in and of
Yeah.
itself, but and managing people. But it's taken me years to build a really great team, and my current team have been with me for quite a while. But it does take a while to figure out, especially for the ideal profile of the person who is okay with A, the type of work you have to offer, and B, that it's part-time, that they don't need full-time work.
Yeah.
Um, so that took a while. You want people with the right personality to work with a vulnerable group, being seniors who are generally, our senior audience is 80 years of age plus.
Mhm.
So they're quite vulnerable. Most of them have a chronic condition or illness. So you really need the right type of person on the team.
Okay. Okay. So you've built this team now. Now you have two businesses and you have a team. Do you have systems? I mean, what do your systems look like as well? I know like when people want to build a business, they want to jump in and do all the work themselves. And even when they bring in assistants or team members, they really don't have like a system. Like, this is what happens here. Next step, this is what happens. If this happens, this happens, right? So how were you able to build a system? Did you model it after somebody else that was in the industry, or did you just kind of do trial and error, just figure it out?
We use a mix of what we learned along the way with clients. So for the first business, I'll just use an example. Well, with both businesses, we have checklists. So for the home care business, where we match caregivers with clients, we have task lists that caregivers do during shifts or visits with clients. For the downsizing business, we have checklists of what we would take all clients through to help them move. And then you kind of have a mix. It's like a technology stack of either in-house software or third-party software integrate into your workflow processes. So a really simple tool is everyone that manages a team should probably or does probably have a time tracking software. So that each member of the team can log their hours. So with myCareBase, we built a care management app in-house so that families could communicate with the caregivers that they hire through us, and that caregivers could log their shift notes and their time. With Home to Home, my first business, I used a third-party software to manage. It's like a CRM almost, but it manages the different projects we have ongoing, who's assigned to each project, and then they log their time for each project.
Okay. All right, cool. I wanted to get past, I wanted to learn like kind of the ins and outs of how you did that, how you got started. So we're going to transition a little bit. Maybe we'll go back to that again, but okay. Dealing with the actual clients themselves.
Yeah.
It is different. It's not like, they're vulnerable. Like you said, they're from a different time, really, I mean, not a lot of technology. How are you able to kind of you yourself deal with these people and also get your team to be able to deal with this different type of population? Because I'm assuming you're not hiring 80-year-olds to deal with other 80-year-olds, right?
Right.
You're hiring maybe 20, 30-year-olds who it's like, it's new to them. It's a different type, I guess, not type of person. Everyone's roughly the same, but they're from a different time, right? So how are you training these people to be able to manage that?
Yeah. First of all, I should say I love dealing with the senior demographic. They're just so sweet. They're so appreciative. It is really something that I fear is lost with the younger generation, just the level of appreciation of people doing things for you. I just really love our customers, and I've been really blessed with really good customers as well. What I've found is that in picking who you want on your team, who are going to be working with your customers, I look way more at personality than experience, because someone with a good attitude and a good personality who also likes being around seniors is it's worth way more than someone who's got lots of experience but a mediocre attitude, because you can learn anything. And so if you pick the right people with the right attitude, I feel like you can kind of adapt them to anything. And if you pick people who already have an aptitude towards helping seniors or already have an interest in it, then you're off to a good start. With myCareBase, just the way we've modeled the business, some things particularly specific to do with how we deliver the home care and do the matching. We only select caregivers who have a certain number of years of experience of working with seniors, so they are already trained.
Okay. Now, when you're matching these seniors with a home, are these in like apartments where it's like a big apartment building and they're all living inside of an apartment building, like assisted living, or is this like a house where I'm just not describing it correctly, but is it like a house where where there's, maybe 4 or 5 people living in the home and a nurse that's on staff? Or are we talking these big facilities where they basically have their own apartment?
Hmm. That's a really good question. So here in Canada, and particularly in BC, we don't have a ton of those small houses or houses where there's 4 or 5 people and they share services. I actually, as just an aside, I think we need more of those.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think we just need more options because not everyone wants to live with 100 people.
Yeah.
But here in Canada, most retirement living residences are larger group living environments, and there's different ways that the owners, developers can make it cozy. And so certainly it doesn't feel institutional at all. Like some of the really nice retirement residences are like resorts. Same in the US. Actually, the US even more so because you'll have golf courses and pools and everything.
Yeah.
But here, it is having like a condo in a building of 100 people, and you go down to the main dining room for your meals. And some places will maybe have 2 different restaurants. There'll be like an entertainment lounge. Some have pool tables, some have swimming pools. Many of them have movie theaters,
Hmm.
so you can watch a movie every night. Um, and there's a recreation calendar. So some people call it like a perpetual cruise ship.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. So through the first business, when we help people choose, it really is a matter of budget and what their care needs are. Because here, seniors residences are characterized by the level of care they provide. So there's nursing homes, assisted living, and then supportive living.
Okay. Okay. So now inside all those facilities, there's a nursing portion, an assisted living portion.
Right.
Okay. Okay. And are you housed then, I guess, with people in the same situation that you're in, or is it just kind of
Right.
mixed?
Yeah. No, it's generally you're housed with, if you're in a residence that offers multiple levels, you're generally with the people that are most like you.
Okay. Okay. So let's say I have a grandparent um who I'm ready, they are ready to get out of their apartment. Maybe their spouse passed away, and it's time for them to maybe move and get the additional care they need that I can't provide. Right? What does that situation look like? What would it look like when they come to you?
So I would do a first meeting where I try to get to know them. So I try to figure out what's happened that's led up to this point. So if the person's lost their spouse, then obviously that's a traumatic trigger for them. They're probably still grieving. So you have to kind of take special care with those kind of situations. But then you have the context for why is it that they're looking to move. So that's almost important to know why. And then I would talk to them about, what's important to them. What are their challenges? Like, what do they feel like they need the most help with on a daily or weekly basis? And then look at the residences that can offer the services they need. Um, I look at whether there's a chronic condition that's going to evolve over time. So the person has Parkinson's, arthritis, cancer, Alzheimer's, whatever the chronic condition might be, that condition is going to evolve. And there are some known ways of what to expect for each of those conditions. So you want to pick or recommend places that are going to be able to satisfy their care needs as they age. Like you don't want to recommend a place where they can live for a year and then they're gonna have to move again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would recommend places, I would tour them around. And there's different ways that you can get familiar with a residence. You can do a trial stay, you can go for a meal, you can meet other people and talk to people who live there. And then ultimately it's up to them where they want to move to.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Like, it seems like you've really had to, you really have to care about each individual customer. You can't look at this as you personally, you can't really look at this as this is my business. This is what I do. Show up, you do this, you do this. It's really, you really do pour into these people and care about them and give them give them a tour and really work with them one-on-one to find the specific place that's best for them. Now, what happens? Have you found facilities that you're like, nope, we're not going there? Has that happened? And how often is that like a normal thing? I just hear horror stories, and
Yeah.
the amount of times you're caring about people, there's got to be times where you're like, no, I don't want you to be here. I want you to be over
Yeah.
here.
So one thing I'm really proud to say is I treat every client as if it was my own family in how I give advice. And so because I'm entirely private and I don't get paid any fees from the retirement residences that I recommend,
Mhm.
I am very honest. I'm not shy about telling a client, you know what, this isn't my favorite spot. Um, I wouldn't choose this in your top three. It's not even worth touring based on what you've told me you're looking for. And then other times I'll be like, this is great. Like this is a place I would recommend for my own mother. So I actually speak in those kinds of words to clients, and I think they appreciate it.
Yeah. And I'm sure that you're going to get repeat customer, I guess not repeat customers, but they're going to refer you, um, friends, family, if you're dealing with them and you're taking care of their specific needs more often. Has that happened a lot?
Mm, yeah. In fact, for the second business, myCareBase, um, most of our new clients come from our existing clients because they're happy with how we work in our services and they're recommending their other relatives.
Okay. So how like what's the future here? Like what's the future for you? You can only be in so many places at so many times, right? Like what does the future look like? Are you looking to expand, or are you going to stay the size you currently are now?
Um, so I definitely expand. I think with my care base, we need to expand to other cities or other provinces other than BC. And then eventually, somehow combine with another entity that can really bring synergies. And that entity, I don't know what that would be right now, but probably expand and somehow merge or combine with another entity at some future point.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So because there's only so many places you can personally go. So you would have to do some sort of combination. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I was kind of thinking about this without divulging personal information, obviously, in these customers. Give us like a success story, like somebody that came back to you and said, man, thank you so much. This place is amazing.
Um, so I'll tell you a success story with for each business.
Okay.
So okay, so the first business, I like telling this story because people can't believe. Um, so you have hoarders kind of everywhere, right? And they're kind of hidden individuals in society. They usually keep to themselves, usually associated with a mental health issue or something from their upbringing. But there's a whole story about how they got to where they are. And a lot of them just don't know how to get out of their situation.
Yeah.
And we get hoarders once a year,
Yeah.
usually, like really challenging cases, and I just tell myself, okay, this is going to build character. This is going to build character. Um, one year, we got referred to a client who had lived in her home for 90 years. Her
Wow.
mom brought her to the home. So her mom had gotten
90
divorced.
years. How old is this
Yep,
person?
93.
Oh my gosh.
So when she was a toddler, her mom brought her and her sister, her older sister, to this home that her grandparents lived in. So mom got divorced. Her dad had this house in a really nice area of Vancouver. And at the time, it would have been beautiful, like stained glass windows with the family crest,
Wow.
huge brick house. It would have been a mansion. Actually, it still was a mansion for even current times.
Wow.
So three generations lived in this house, all hoarders. And her and her sister never married, and her sister passed away, and she was the end of the family line. No more children.
Wow.
And she was the last person to live in this house. And so we were referred this client, and she, I don't think, had ever been taught how to manage a house. She didn't know how to take recycling out. She didn't know how to keep track of garbage days. There was garbage in her car. I had to wear rain boots in the house because the stuff on the floor went up to mid calf.
Wow.
You couldn't see the floor. Um, and it was really challenging. It
Yeah.
um it took months. We had a restoration crew. We needed to sanitize the place because there was mold. She was just living in horrible circumstances, but she was so sweet and open to suggestion. That's the key thing. There was no resistance.
Yeah.
You could tell she just really wanted help. And we got her into a condo. And my team and I went over and above. My team washed every dish before we put it in the cupboard. We normally don't do that. And
Yeah.
we washed everything for her. We got her new towels. We got all her clothes professionally laundered. So everything was clean. And I mean, that is something I'm really proud of because it was a horrible situation. She ended up in this really bright, um, lots of natural light, a nice condo space, where she lived for the rest of her life after that. So that was a success story because she was really appreciative, and there's no way she could have done that on her own.
Yeah. Yeah. That's huge. That's a huge project. What happened with so this house, it's in the family, there's nobody else left. What happened with the house?
Well, it got sold. It got sold to someone who actually had an interest in restoring it. So they
Mhm.
actually kept their promise, and they were, yeah,
Okay.
it was beautiful after I saw pictures. After, yeah, they did a good job.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. You said you had
Yeah.
two stories, two business,
Yeah. Well, so the
respective
other,
business.
with the other business, it's more about home care. And the goal there is, um, and this is really, for the home care industry, where our goal is really just to keep people out of long-term care,
Mhm.
prevent early moves into nursing homes. And so we have a client where, um, she was resistant, and her doctor finally told her, um, if you don't accept home care, you're going to have to move to a nurse. She has Alzheimer's.
Mm.
And so with the care that we are providing, she's been in her home, probably will be, hopefully, be able to stay home for at least a few years, um, before having to move anywhere else, or she might never have to move. And so even those few years are just so valuable in keeping them in their home environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I talk to a lot of people that are in their the senior part of their life, like they're older people in the business that I have, and they tell me the most interesting stories. Right? They'll want to tell you basically their whole life, and a lot of times how it revolves around that property they have. How often are you spending the majority of your day listening to stories? I mean, is that a big part of your day?
Um, but our clients, okay, so if the client has a home for many, many years, then yes. But a lot of our clients have moved once already, and not as much of an attachment to that home. But definitely the ones where, we hear the most stories is where they're still in the home where they raise their kids.
Okay.
Then we get a lot of stories.
Okay, give us some examples. You don't have to tell any specifics or people's names, but give us some
Um,
interesting stories
of what, the houses,
of the people, of the stories. You know, some of these
people.
people tell me stories like, I don't know, when I got back from the war, here's what we did. It was like really super interesting. I mean, you got to have some there.
We had a client where I wish I had knew them earlier, but the orchestra conductor and the wife was first violinist,
Okay, that's it.
and the house was full of music, and it would have just been so interesting knowing them when they were younger, when they were working,
Hmm.
because I think that would have been an interesting house to grow up in.
Yeah.
We do have clients who, oh, I have a good story. Um, we had clients where we helped them, and they were, uh, about 91, 92, and they started telling me about their lives, and they said they had just got married. They got married when they were 88. And so obviously I'm going to ask, how did that come about
Yeah. Right.
that you found each other at 88? And so they were each married to other people, and they were best friends, and they were in each other's wedding party,
Hmm.
and both their spouses passed away, and then they fell in love.
Wow. At 88.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. And so cute and so, like heartwarming. And so they decided to get married, and they were moving into an assisted living residence together. But
How
they've
does
known each other almost their whole lives.
No kidding. But at 88,
Yeah.
finally they got together. That's interesting. How does that look then? You have a couple, um, and they probably have different needs, different medical needs.
Yeah.
Um, I guess, how does that look like if one is maybe on the assisted living side and one needs like constant care? Can they
Yeah.
be in the same room?
That's a really great question. No, they cannot in most
Mm.
cases. So, but we have places that offer different levels of care. So if they're open to being in different rooms, then they'll be on either different floors or different wings, but they can still eat, like spend all day together. They're just sleeping in different rooms. And because the type of care that the person needs, that is full care, the staffing needs and kind of maybe the equipment and just the care is really different from the assisted living. And the full care wing needs to be secure, because the full care wing often is filled with people with moderate cognitive decline, like
Yeah.
dementia or something else. So it's a totally different environment. It is difficult. It's one of the most common challenges we deal with is when two spouses are aging differently, and you don't necessarily age with your spouse exactly the same way. So most cases, you actually do have different levels of care. And um, to be honest, in most cases, we do recommend try to stay at home with home care for as long as possible, because staying in your home is probably the easiest way that the two spouses can stay together.
Yeah. And you were saying Canada does not have, um, the small homes where multiple people live, because that would be an option too for something like that, right?
Yeah, we have a few, but it's not a mainstream housing choice.
Why not?
I don't know.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I think it takes initiative for people to renovate a home in that way.
Yeah.
Um, you have to have a large enough home for, because everyone probably wants their own bedroom.
Yeah.
So you have to have a large enough home for 5 or 6 bedrooms, and that's not um, common in like city center, but as you go out into the suburbs for sure. But it takes someone to organize it, and it takes someone to, like, you need a good home renovation to do that. And
Hmm.
there's a
That's
few
interesting.
instances. There are
Yeah.
a few instances of it. There's a handful
That's interesting.
that
I
I've
know.
heard.
I know people out here that do that. Like that's what they do, and I know they get government assistance to do those types of things. I wonder if that may be the reason. Maybe in Canada you don't get that.
Maybe send them up our way, because actually that's what I want to do with my friends. We've talked about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
have a cool party house when you're 90 and you guys are
Yeah.
still,
Bring in a chef, bring in a cleaner, a driver, whatever we need.
yeah. Yeah. You got, yeah, all your old college buddies are in there doing keg stands at 95 years old. And it's a crazy place. The nurses are going to
Yeah.
be out of their minds when they see what you guys are up to. But yeah,
Right.
I'll see if I'll look into that, because that's an interesting, from in my end up business model, running a place like that. I always thought it was super interesting, but there's always a reason why people haven't already done it. There's
Yeah.
got to be something, maybe the costs are too high. There's something to do with insurance. There's got to be something going on there.
Maybe insurance. But it's also not the type of thing that any company, because it's not a moneymaker for anybody, right? So you're not going to get a company doing it as a business idea. It really has to come from the people who want to live in that house doing it, and they're sharing the costs.
Okay. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
know the ones I talk to, I mean the customers are paying a lot to live in these homes.
Yeah.
The people are spending a lot of money, and I'm sure it has something to do with their insurance. That would have to be a factor in it, because otherwise I can't imagine it would be worthwhile to have a house, have a nurse on staff if you're not making any money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All
Yeah.
right, cool. Stephanie, this has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, real quick, how can people get hold of you? I mean, obviously, if you're in BC or you're up there, you're like, okay, grandma, it's time. I'm going to call Stephanie. How do they get hold of you?
So best way is email or phone. Are you able to put details in your episode
Oh, yeah. Everything's
notes?
going to be in the bottom
Yeah.
of the notes there.
Okay, so I'll send it to you and you can include it, but best way to reach me is just straight email. I'm really good about responding on email and I'll also leave a phone number in the episode notes.
Okay, awesome. That is perfect. Yeah, if you want to contact Stephanie, do it. No, everything's down there below. Now, here's the big question, though, Stephanie. I don't know if you saw the email I sent you before you got on here. We are LandLife. We buy and sell dirt and trees. If you, Stephanie, could buy land anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
I did think about this and I thought
Nice.
about it from different angles. Am I buying it from an investment perspective or a lifestyle perspective? In the end, I chose Tuscany.
Oh, wow. You're going big.
Yeah, I love Italy. Tuscany is one of my favorite places in all the places I visited. It's peaceful there. You relax. I don't know if it's the best investment. Like I could have chosen a better investment if I wanted to make money, but for lifestyle, somewhere I could go on vacations, Italy.
Yeah. Get a big lot out there, put some Airbnbs. You're gonna make lots
Oh,
of
it's
money.
it's beautiful there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, Tuscany. I've never been there. We lived in Italy when we were kids, but
Really?
we were in Sicily. Yeah, so it was a little bit further
Oh, that's
away.
cool too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
we
nice
should go
place.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. Maybe I'll buy something out there.
There you go. Do it.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me today. It was a good chat.
I
It's fun.
appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Till next time, I'll see you on Land Life.